everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we're really excited today because we are here to talk about the second part of the Countdown to Christmas and Miracles of Christmas lineup of this last weekend. We're talking about Jingle Bell Run and A Reason for the Season. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Dory's here.
Hello.
Yes. How are you doing?
I am good. I am excited to talk about these movies. Yeah, with one of them stars my favorite person in the universe. So very
Oh,
excited to talk about
yes.
these.
Well, that's why I wanted to make sure to have you on for this one because I knew that
Yes.
we were on the ranking of Ashley Williams movies. We had her on. We sometimes do this kind of wild thing where we have the talent on and we rank their movies with them, and it's been very, very fun. And she was a blast for that.
I mean, she couldn't have been nicer. It was
Yeah,
so much fun.
yeah.
So, yes, I thank you for letting me join you on that episode. Much
Yeah,
appreciated.
it was really very memorable. So, how how are you enjoying this season so far for for Hallmark and holiday movies?
I feel really behind this year.
Mm-hmm.
I have not watched as many movies as I would like. Um, it's just been crazy and busy. So I'm like really looking forward to Thanksgiving week when I can get some like downtime and really catch up and like marathon some of these.
Yeah.
But overall, I have I've liked most of the movies I've seen. I don't know. There have maybe only been a couple that I loved.
Mm-hmm.
But there have not been any of the movies that I've seen where I've been like, this, I'll never get that 2 hours of my life back. I haven't
Yeah.
had that moment, which feels to me like success,
Yeah. There's been a
because there are
couple that
those
were,
movies where you're
yeah,
like, oh
yeah.
man.
There's been a couple that were on the boring side that were just kind of,
Right.
but then like there's been a couple also that were just like outright bonkers, like crazy, and
Yeah. I
and
mean, and I'm like, give me bonkers,
yeah,
Like, I'd rather have that. I feel like we've talked about this before. Like, I'd rather them take the swing and just
yeah,
have it be crazy than like be something boring, forgettable, whatever.
yeah. Because the thing about Hallmark movies is that most of them aren't really in that like so bad it's good kind of territory. Most of
Mm-hmm.
them, if you most of the time, if a Hallmark movie is bad, it's usually just boring. It's usually like
True.
but like I don't know if you saw Trivia at St. Nick's, but
I
I thought
did.
that movie was like so unhinged. Like when she's comparing dark matter to Santa Claus, like I was dying laughing. And I'm thinking of like the
Yeah.
poor writer who's tasked with, you want me to compare dark matter to Santa? Like that was
Yeah.
so funny, I thought. She was
Yeah. I
crazy.
mean,
She was so nuts.
she was a lot to handle in that movie. Like, she grew on me. She grew
Made
on
me
me
laugh.
until the end. She grew on me towards the end, I should say.
Yeah.
But she was a lot. But I mean,
It made me laugh. She was so
she made me
over the
laugh.
top
And
that
also,
I
like,
laughed.
there was also so much going on in that movie that, like, there was other stuff to focus on too.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't just, we weren't just bogged down with her being,
Yeah.
she was
And
mean too at the beginning. I was like, relax, it's trivia.
she really was. I mean, yeah, it's very funny. And then we're not covering it in this, it'll be in the other one, but the Confessions of a Christmas Letter.
Okay, so I didn't watch that one, but I got on Twitter briefly today and I saw people tweeting about it and I was like, all right, well, this one has moved to the top of my list
It
because it
it
sounds unhinged.
it was unhinged. It
Yeah.
really was
Yeah.
crazy.
Did you like it?
I did like it, but like it was in that sort of like so bad it's like she was not behaving like a reasonable person. This woman was trying to kill everybody like with Christmas. By the end of these poor people that were doing this with her, they were worn down. They looked
Well, even
tired, beleaguered.
Well, even
with
the
Christmas.
synopsis was
And
wild and
like
confusing. Like when we
they,
did the preview episode, we were like, what does this
the,
mean? Like,
so
what is
yeah,
this?
like and that they supposedly have, like those year-end Christmas letters that people
Yeah, that
write.
families do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So like there's like a competition in this town, and they have a wall of fame for the great Christmas letters that have won this competition. And so she's like determined to win. So she hires this famous writer who's writer's block to write her Christmas letter. And it's like unhinged. Like they end up somehow he ends up fake dating her daughter and like
What? I gotta watch this one. Like that one has moved to the top of my list just because, and I also saw like a variety of responses to it. Like someone was saying, I loved it. This was so funny. And then someone else was like, what did I just watch? And so I was like,
yeah.
all right, I gotta
Well, see,
see
that's the thing. I
this.
mean, I know there's like bad Christmas movie bingo and stuff like that, but most Hallmark movies are not really fun on that level, I don't think. Most of them are not fun on that, like, this is ridiculous, this is nonsense, this is goofy, I'm laughing
Mm-hmm.
kind of a level.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, if they're bad, they're usually just kind of boring and kind of
Mm-hmm.
plotting. They're not like, this person's insane, this is a crazy person. Like, you usually don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact we got two already is very promising.
Yeah, there are some
So
zany ones, and I'm here for it.
yeah, me too.
I want to be able to at least laugh at it,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
when you're recapping it later, you're laughing, remembering all of the hijinks.
yeah. Like Hallmark movies usually are light on the calm in the rom-com,
Yeah,
you know.
if there's any calm at all.
At all. Yeah, absolutely. And so you'd kind of
Yeah,
look for, like, I think you'd get more of that madcap energy from something like when the Freeform used to do that. Like they had a really
you're
funny
right.
one.
They were
It was
good.
called,
Like the mistletones and all of those
yeah, or like the
movies.
turkey drop. I thought that
Yeah.
one was so funny with Cheryl Hines. And or like something like Christmas Perfection that was on Lifetime, but with the unhinged Irish Christmas Village.
Yeah, where
I
she like
love,
could never get out of it.
yeah, I love that one so
Stuck
much.
there forever. Yeah.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
So we have two movies that we're recapping in this episode, and it's gonna be interesting to see what you think. So the first one is Jingle Bell Run, and this stars Ashley Williams and Andrew Walker, director Lucy Guest, writers Tom McCurry and Stephanie Sarapas. Two opposites team up for an amazing Christmas race and find love along the way. Emphasis on the amazing, because it is an
Yes.
amazing race.
Yes, it is an amazing Christmas race.
Like, I didn't realize in doing the preview, I thought, oh, they're like running a 5K or something together. I didn't
It
realize
was
that this was like
no,
amazing race.
it was legit. Like they were on planes.
Yeah,
They flew, they flew all over the country.
it
Yeah.
really was. And whenever they do reality TV on Hallmark, they always try to pretend that these events are happening live. Like
Hmm.
when they go to the one of the flight attendant of one, they go to one of the travel places, and the person's like, oh, I've been following you guys all along, and I'm like, that's not how these things work. Like, they're not live. Like, I'm the only one of the reality competitions that is live is Big Brother.
Right.
That's the only one. The
They're
rest,
not going anywhere.
yeah, exactly.
But how
But
fun would it
who cares? I
be?
didn't care about that.
I
I
didn't
mean,
either.
overall, did you enjoy it?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes. Obviously.
Yeah.
Like, obviously. I I loved it. It was so fun. I mean, Ashley Williams can do no wrong. She was so good in this, and she's always like, she is just one of my favorite Hallmark heroines. She just knows the job. She does it well.
Yeah.
And the other thing that was fun about this was that Andrew Walker got to be kind of goofy, and
Uh-huh.
and that is my favorite version of him. Like when
Yeah.
he gets to be funny
I
and have a
agree.
good time, because he's been in a lot of more serious movies, or just not even serious movies, but having to play the straight man.
Yeah.
And seeing him like this was a delight.
Like outside of the Curious Caterer movies, which he has such good chemistry with Nikki, and
Hmm.
they're really fun. It's been rough going for him.
I know.
And I guess the Three Wise Men as well. I'll exempt that, but that African movie he did was unwatchable. The this summer, I call it the Staring at Walls movie in Malta. Oh my gosh, it was
Oh.
it was brutal.
I
It was
know, and
so bad.
it's tough because he is like, this is Hallmark royalty we're talking about. Let's do better by him.
Yeah,
So I'm glad that he has it in him. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like he was so funny in this movie,
yeah,
playing this like dumb jock. It was just
yeah.
so
I like
good.
when he gets that humor in the Wiseman movie. He had like that when he's like staring at them in talking to himself in the mirror and trying to pump him up. Like that's
Yes,
funny,
so good. And that's, yes,
enjoyable.
exactly. Like that's, I think that's my favorite version of Andrew
Yeah,
Walker. So, I mean, I loved this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I felt like it was pretty ambitious, even though it was like we all know that they didn't really go to all these places. We understand that. But like even just having the different set pieces for these different
Yeah.
places is fairly ambitious for a Hallmark movie, I would say.
And they did a good job with it. Like,
Yeah.
you can tell that they spent money on this movie and they did a nice job with the
Yeah.
sets, with the different locations. I was impressed.
Yeah.
Even the graphics I liked. I was like, oh, I love this map. I love seeing where they're going. I think that I mean, they put the effort into it and it showed for sure.
Yeah. So would you say that are you a competitive person? Would you say
Not
competition brings
really.
out your inner Scrooge?
No, no. Mm-mm.
I think I am a pretty competitive person.
I'm not.
And I admit that I sometimes can be a bit of a poor loser. And I have to just be like, okay, okay, okay. But it yeah, my family was really into like playing games and
Hmm.
things like that. So it was just kind of I grew up with, and I was very competitive with especially my older brother. Because we are so different night and day.
Hmm.
And so it just kind of there was like a natural sense of competition in between the two of us. And so I think I would have also, I don't know if it would bring out my inner Scrooge, but I think it would, I'd get into it. Get into it.
Yeah, I get over things pretty quickly. So I'd be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, we lost. That's a bummer. I don't care." I'd get over it. I do think that the closer they got though, and the closer I got in a situation like that, the
Yeah, the harder it'd
competitive
be.
nature, it would be really tough. Like
Yeah.
if I could see it, if I could like taste the victory, then the loss of that would be heartbreaking for
Hmm.
sure. But
Yeah.
I'm like her, like at the beginning where she was just like, "Oh no, you don't understand. Like my goal is not to win. My goal is to not get voted off first and to not make a fool of myself." Like that's me. But then
Yeah.
the closer she got, the more she was like, "Wait, we can actually do this?" That
Yeah, it's like the
that's how I
Sandra Diaz
am.
Twine approach to Survivor. That was her. She won twice, and her big approach is anybody but me. Anybody but me is her approach, and she won
And it
twice.
works.
Oh, yeah, it worked. And so yeah, so her sister signs her up for this race. And
Her sister, who was in Chicken Sisters. Did you watch Chicken Sisters?
yes. Was she what's I forgot her sister was in
She
that.
was the one who did that leggings sale.
Yeah.
The drop.
Okay, Shauna.
Yes, yes, the drop. That was her.
Yeah. That was the best episode
I
of that.
loved that episode.
Yeah,
It was so funny.
And they have this meet cute. He's a former retired hockey star, but he doesn't want to be a coach because like coaches are lame or whatever. And so they're on the treadmill, and they basically have this like treadmill collision.
And she doesn't know how to turn her treadmill on or off.
Yeah, and his isn't working, and there's some kind of and they end up on top of each other for various reasons, and they're kind of annoyed with each other. She thinks he's arrogant. He thinks she's dumb, and but they end up on the teams. And the thing is that I feel like all the other teams had like a say in who they're with. They're the only ones that got like, because there was like a mother and a daughter, and there was like they had a say of who their partner was. But these two are just like, we're putting you together. We don't even care.
I mean, they were like the last ones picked kind of situation thrown together, which was funny.
And where are you on as far as reality? You worked in reality TV for a while, right?
Oh, I love reality TV. I worked in it. I watch it still. So this was right up my alley. Like, I'm very interested in the challenges, and I was impressed with how they did the challenges, because a lot of times with a movie like this, those could be a throwaway because you're like there for the romance or whatever. But I thought that they were fun and that they did a good job with creating the challenges and like communicating those to the audience and then getting to see them participate in them. I was very impressed.
Yeah, it was fun. Each one along the way, and just like the camaraderie, and it was very sweet at the end when they make like part of their winning, they're going to help the other team, so they got close to. It was very sweet, very sweet.
I know.
Yeah.
I really liked, one of my favorite parts of the movie was getting to know their fellow competitors and getting all their backstories. Like I loved the scenes where it was after a mission or whatever, and they just got to sit and talk, and you get to hear everyone's backstory and stuff. I thought that was really fun.
Do you have a favorite reality competition? Are you Team Survivor, Team Amazing Race, Team Big Brother, something else?
I am like, so my favorite reality competition show of all time is Project Runway.
Oh, okay.
That's what I love. Like, I love the creativity and the like artistry of that. I love a food competition show, like a cupcake wars, a Christmas cookie baking competition, Great British Bake Off. Like, those are my faves. But honestly, like, it does not take much to get me into any reality show. Like, I love Traders. Have you watched Traders?
No, I have not. I know about
Rachel,
it. But...
you should. I don't know what you're doing. You need to be watching Traders. Like, it just does not take much to get me hooked,
Nice.
Especially if there's a game at play and knowing all of their different personalities. I watched Survivor for years. I haven't in a long time. But I watched it for years. I never got into Amazing Race though, surprisingly.
So I watched Survivor I was a huge fan, not even just like a fan of the show, but I was a big fan of like Rob has a podcast and like the different communities surrounding. I mean, that was my first podcast inspiration was Rob has a podcast and his incredible podcast that he does. And the community that he built around his podcast. I mean, I was still a patron until very recently, even though I wasn't watching the shows anymore. But I just ran out of time. Like, that is one thing that had to. I never thought that Survivor would get the axe because I loved it so much. But it just once I kind of felt like a season 40 with the all winter season that was kind of like it felt a certain degree of closure on that like experience
Yeah.
for me. And then I don't know, I just haven't really watched a season since, which is sad.
I
But
think, yeah, I think that's the tough thing with a lot of these competitions is the time commitment it takes, right? And
yeah,
like, remember when
especially
years and
Big
years
Brother.
ago, yes, when you're watching on multiple different nights, it's like this is
Yeah,
eviction night, whatever. It gets to be too much. And that is more often than not, that's the reason I'll stop watching
yeah.
a
And then
reality
Big
show.
Brother, you have the live streams. I mean, it's a big commitment. It's really like a lot.
I used to watch, so I never really got into Big Brother, but I used to work for an entertainment news show, and we had satellite feeds of Big Brother, and where you could it was like a CBS show, and so and so a friend of mine who I worked with would just put up the satellite feeds of like them at the house and just watch, and I was like, this is intense. You
Yeah.
are watching hours and hours.
It's a lot.
And this was before, like, isn't it a legit show now that you can watch on like Showtime or whatever? Like you can watch the feeds of
Yeah.
just like that's
There's the live streams.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of the
A lot.
It's a lot. It's crazy.
But
So,
Amazing Race, I was into it for a long time. I really was. I was into it for a long time. But then they they lost me when it started getting more, if feeling more and more scripted because
mhm.
because like in the old days they used to have like people could pick pretty much any flight that they wanted to take, any way that they wanted to get wherever they were going, all of that stuff. And so you'd have people on like multiple different flights and multiple different, like it was just so much more like scrappy. And
Mhm.
in this it felt, and it started to feel like, okay, they're picking challenges that they know that certain teams will be better at than others. They really want certain ones to win, and it would just get kind of frustrating, and it just became less fun, and that as it
Yeah.
became more and more predictable. And so I
Yeah.
lost I've lost Amazing Race for a bit. I haven't watched that for quite a while.
I think the other thing that happens, and this is reality TV in general, is that people become very savvy. Like we've all kind of lived in a world of reality TV and like competitions for a long time now. So it seems less like fresh or interesting. Like people aren't being themselves. They're being a
Right.
character on a
Yeah.
show. And it's like they're going in knowing, okay, I'm going to play this character.
Mm,
And I think that that takes away from it too. It just feels
that's
less
true.
authentic. I mean, and
Yeah.
that's like, that is just the culture we live in at this point, right? Like we've been living with reality TV so long. And if you're a viewer and if you are interested and like savvy in that way, you can't, it's like you can't even help it. Your brain is like built for it at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the new Gift Wrapped Romance Sweet Clean series, available now wherever you purchase books. Looking for some cheerful escapism this holiday season? Snuggle up with a cup of hot cocoa and lose yourself in 5 festive tales of romance with the new book series, Gift Wrapped Romance. These 5 funny and feel-good books have all the jolly hallmarks of perfect holiday reading: twinkling lights, mistletoe kisses, and plenty of Christmas cheer. Swoon over your new book boyfriends as they find love in the most magical season of all. Find the books wherever you do your book shopping this holiday season, or use the affiliate link in the description below. The first challenge that they have is they go to a German restaurant and they have a nut cracking challenge there. And the ice babes get eliminated. Which was funny. You melted our hearts, but your time is done.
The best.
That was funny. And so then they have then they go to the next place, and I didn't write down every place, but then they have they have this pretzel. They're eating the pretzels, and then they find out that the snowball team ended up in the wrong state. So that's what I'm saying. Like back in the day, like in Amazing Race, like people did take different planes and different
Mm-hmm.
travel and different, and so you'd have that happening. You don't have that anymore. But so then the next one is you have them hitting a fruit cake through the button of a snowman. Which is fun. And, and
I love
then
it.
and that's when Team Polar Party is out. And then he gets the message from the producer, and they're saying, yeah, you got to flirt more with Avery. And this is where I do feel like it was a little skeevy of him to not like shut that down immediately. But absolutely not. I will not do
Right.
this. It was kind of gross, like he does change and apologize, but the fact that he even went along with it at all was kind of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
not very nice of him, So, and then they have this window decorating challenge, and they have to do 3 French hens as their theme.
That
And
was
I think
wild.
yeah,
That was wild because I was like, what are they gonna do? And it ended up being really cute.
yeah,
And I like what they did with the hens painting pictures of France, of the Eiffel Tower and stuff.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that was clever
yeah.
because when they were like, "Oh, I've got the great idea," and they show them painting, so I'm like, "What does that have to do with 3 hens?" But it made sense once you saw it.
Oh my gosh, I know. And it was like I liked that moment too because it was a real bonding moment for them, right?
Yeah.
Like they got to know each other better and they kind of like opened up to each other. So I thought that was cute.
So that's when they have the conversation about competitiveness, bringing out your inner Scrooge.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And they don't have phones, and so they have to get mail and stuff on the race, which was kind of fun.
That's fun too. And also, I really liked that moment when he gets the mail from his brother because you hear before that they're kind of estranged and he's not as close as he would like to be. So I like that he got a card from them. That was
Yeah,
sweet.
that was nice. So then they end up in Texas, and they have Chip and Lainey, country dance champions, teaching them how to 2-step, I guess it is. And she's freaking out. She's like, I'm a terrible dancer, which would be my response as well.
You're like, please, no.
I'm the worst because I'm a little dyslexic, and so like any kind of pattern is almost
Mm-hmm.
impossible for me. It's not possible. So but she figures it out, and they're not last
They're not
again.
last. I mean, they
Yeah,
do really well. They get their
yeah.
little tap on the shoulder pretty quick.
Yeah. And then they end up going to the wrong airport. There's 2 airports in Dallas. Who
I
knew?
loved that. Classic Hallmark,
And of course, it's
classic
snowing in
Hallmark.
Dallas, Texas.
Uh-huh. There's a snowstorm that closes the roads in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, because that's like
Um,
not a thing in Dallas, but for
no.
Hallmark, it
So,
is.
so good. Like,
Yeah,
but it that really made me laugh and they had to like hitch a ride to New Mexico,
yeah.
which also made me laugh. I'm like, you mean to tell me this guy is picking you up and driving you all the way to a different
Yeah.
state? Okay.
But it ended up being that the people who flew their flights had been canceled, and so
That's right.
they actually were there earlier than everybody else, which again, not to repeat the point, but that used to happen on the Amazing Race because people would
Hmm.
have different travel plans and different flights and different, but obviously wouldn't happen anymore. But yeah, so they end up not being late, and
So good.
so then that's where they have the pinatas challenge, and they get the
I loved that scene with the slow-mo where she's
yeah, that was
cheering
fun.
for him in slow-mo
Yeah,
and she's screaming for him in slow-mo. It's so funny.
yeah, it was really fun. And then he gives all of the other contestants, he gives them Christmas presents, which was sweet.
I know, and he has a little speech for each of them.
Uh-huh.
Um,
And we find out that Shirley, that her daughter loved reindeers, and he gives her a reindeer book, and it turns out she's passed away, the daughter.
so
So
sad.
yeah,
Because she
sad.
talks a lot about her daughter during the course of the race. She's kind of like, referencing her daughter and mentioning her, and then to find out that her daughter has indeed passed away. It's like, oh my gosh. And she then explains that she's doing it in honor of her
Yeah,
daughter.
yeah. This was very sweet. And then he gives her an America ornament
That
with
was cute.
yeah, which was very sweet. And they have this whole talk. Oh, I never wanted to be a coach. What am I going to do? And they end up near kiss, almost kiss. But then he's like, wait, it'll be on the
There's a
camera. We don't want
camera.
that.
Yeah.
So, and then they end up in Oregon. And evidently, this is all airing live again because it's
Mm-hmm.
Hallmark. And they're stomping on the grapes for the first challenge.
Filling up these big old jugs of wine
Yeah,
or with
yeah.
grape juice that they are stomping.
And they win.
They win.
They win. So so Shirley and the thing are out. And then Ashley overhears the producer saying that he needs to really sell it with the romance.
I mean, classic Hallmark again,
Yeah, of
right? Like the
course.
second he pulled him aside to talk, you knew she was going to overhear
Yeah.
it and that it
And
was going to
and
be
then she
a fight.
leaves before he says, what I feel for Avery is real.
Of
I'm not
course, she
faking it.
misses the most important part. I
Yeah.
mean, this is a
Yeah.
classic Hallmark setup, right?
Yeah. And which is it is pretty cringe, but like they didn't really like drag it out that long. So it
No.
wasn't too bad.
No, and I did appreciate her confronting him like immediately
Yeah, that's what
instead
I'm
of giving
saying.
him the cold shoulder or whatever. And I also appreciated the producer kind of owning up to it and being like, this was a longer conversation and this is the part that you missed. I thought that was
Yeah.
good too.
So and then he apologizes, and they run to the end. They're against the other male pair, and they are searching through the presents to find Belle, and then they can go to the finish, and they do, and they win. And it's very exciting. They each win $1 million. That is very,
Yeah,
very
that's no joke.
profitable. Yeah.
That's no joke. I thought they'd be splitting it. They'd be
Yeah, me
splitting the
too.
prize. But no, they
Everybody
each
would
got a
want to
million
be on
dollars.
this reality show.
Mm-hmm. I also
Yeah.
loved the moment with Ashley ringing the bell. It felt so triumphant. Like the
Yeah,
way they shot it and everything. I thought it was really cool.
that's true. And so then she announces that she's going to be investing in the other teams, that she's starting a foundation for Gracie. And so that's very, very, very sweet. And because, of course, like in Hallmark, you never would really want to have like actual competition, like where things get
Right.
mean at all, like
Right.
not at all. And then he says that he's going to start working at the Chicago Youth Hockey League.
Yeah,
And
he's gonna start it.
yeah,
It's
start the
gonna be
league.
his
Yeah.
passion project.
And so everything's happy ending. So what would you give this one? 1 to 5. What do you think?
I would give this a 4.25.
Yeah, I agree. I'm right there with you. That's what I would give it to.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Merch Store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies Merch Store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
So then we have a reason for the season. This was on Movies and Miracles, and this this is directed by Jason Bork, writer Brooke Durham, and stars Taylor Cole and Kevin McGarry. And it's in order to earn her trust fund, Evie is tasked with granting Christmas wishes to the people who saved her life on the night of her birth. To aid in her cause, she employs Kyle, a handsome local attorney, to track down those who helped and attempts to secretly learn what they might want while maintaining her anonymity. With Christmas fast approaching, the heiress and the attorney can't resist falling for each other's charms as they ramp up their gift-giving efforts. But as time ticks down, will she be able to accomplish the mission and grant all of the wishes by Christmas Eve? So overall, what do you think about this one?
I really liked this one, and I was actually really surprised because when we read on my podcast, All the Feels, when we did our like bracket episode where we were going through all of the synopses of the movies, I read that one and I was like, I don't want to watch this. Like, this does not. I was like, I don't know how I feel about this.
Leave it to me to be like, that's the one for Dory to watch.
I was like, no, not feeling it.
Yeah, I don't think we gave it a very high in our preview either. I think it might have even been a Cole.
No, right. It just didn't. I didn't have high hopes.
And I don't know if I was slightly traumatized by the fact that we just had that heiress in the Handyman movie, which was so bad.
Well, I think that was what was so fun about this and so good about this is that she wasn't like the spoiled rich girl.
Yeah. Yeah. She was like unaware and a little bit like a little naive, but that's what the mom saw. And so she's like, okay, we need to fix this.
Exactly.
Which was good. This to me is like a base hit, Hallmark movie. Like if you want like a classic feel good and make, if I'm jonesing for like an old school pleasant Hallmark movie, this is it. Right? This doesn't like reinvent anything. It's not trying anything new. It's not, and I think that you need some of those every season. You need to try new stuff, but then you also need, this is it. This is the lane. This is what you love. This is why you're here.
Classic Hallmark. Classic, like all the feels, it pulls at your heartstrings. It's like it's got the like season of giving vibe. I was really surprised. Like I really enjoyed it. I also love Kevin McGarry. I think he is so handsome and charming and swoon worthy. Like I really, really love him. And I thought their pairing was excellent. I thought it was so good.
Well, they're both so tall. So that's good. They fit very well together. And I love him too. He is just insanely good looking. Like, oh my gosh. And that's why it's so crazy with When Calls the Heart. He was on that show for 5 seasons before he kissed anybody. 5 years. He was one of the most attractive men on television.
Doesn't make sense.
Who's
turning that man down? Doesn't make sense.
It's just bonkers. But I said in my little capsule review, I said, this is about as basic as it gets, but it's also very sweet. If I was in the mood for an old school Hallmark movie, I'd put this on. Kevin McGarry is so good looking. It's insane.
Yes.
That's it.
Like I would find myself just like staring at him like, he's just,
he really is.
Seeing him coach that hockey team too, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
This is what I want.
It starts out with this whole backstory of her mom on Christmas Eve. She's pregnant. So she's 8 months pregnant, but she's driving. She starts to go into labor. She goes to this diner, happens to be this town council meeting at the diner on Christmas Eve. And she ends up, there's like a doctor there. There's all these people. She has the baby. And then they're like, we need to get to the hospital because there's an abdominal obstruction. They save the baby's life. So that's why she's named Evie.
Evie, yes.
which was so like that whole introduction was so cozy and so
I
like it was great.
know.
It was great.
It was so good. And I think that that is really what sold me on the movie because when you read the synopsis, you're like, okay, how are they going to make this work? It just
Yeah.
doesn't seem, for some reason, just on paper, it didn't seem interesting. But I think it helps that you like see these characters at the time
Uh-huh.
and they're all just wonderful and lovely. It is just such
Yeah.
a cute setup to the whole thing. I also feel like I thought this one might be a little more dramatic maybe and like sadder, like the story might have been sadder
Hmm.
with the whole they saved her life, but it's not really that sad,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So she's like undercover and she, she says that she needs a make under, which I thought was kind of funny. That she's
Yeah, I
like
liked
looking
that.
too
Basically, she just
slick.
needed some jeans. Yeah.
Yeah. Need a make under. And he turns out he went to University of Virginia Law School, and they're like, why did you end up in this small town? And it's like small towns need lawyers too. It's like a thing. So like it's not like that crazy. Like what?
And they
Yeah.
need doctors too, as we
They
learn in
need
this
doctors.
movie.
Yeah, they need doctors. And so she hires him to help her. And it turns out that the guy still owned the diner and he is estranged from his son. And that was a very sweet plot element that she helps like him get back into communication with his son. It was very sweet.
It's also very sweet that he remembers her and that he
Yeah.
knows who she is because he, um, like you mentioned, she's trying to be anonymous. And
Uh-huh.
he, when they have a moment alone, he hands her the photo of all the people because there were two copies of the photo and he hands her the
Yeah.
photo of everyone in the diner that night and he says you look just like your mother and it was just the sweetest. He was just so warm and loving to her
Yeah.
that their relationship was really sweet
I could
too.
see her mom and him getting
That's what
together.
my mom said. Yes,
Yeah.
I
I've
watched it.
seen some vibes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what my mom said. She was like, "Oh, what's going on here?"
And she tried to like help them, but they were like, no, we don't want any help. So that's part of also why she's trying to do this whole Secret Santa thing. And so they go and they contact all these. The one wants a new fire truck
Hmm.
for the town. The other
Yep.
is looking for a doctor to replace her. They're looking for some candidates. And Kevin McGarry, he was extremely dreamy in this. He was just really sweet. And the whole time I'm thinking, like, oh no, he's gonna be like, how could you lie to me? And what I liked was that he was just kind of like, I already knew. I'm not stupid. I knew
Right.
that
He's
wasn't
like,
me.
yeah, he's like, you handed this guy at the Christmas exchange a like $10,000 bracelet or whatever. He's like, I
Yeah.
kind of figured, I did
Yeah.
like that scene on the ice. That also felt very authentic, where he's just kind of taking it all in. She's like explaining her reasoning for why this is happening. He's just kind of taking it all in. And she's like, are you
Yeah.
mad at me? Are you sure you're not mad at me? I was like, this feels very real, real
Yeah.
life.
Well, and so she has a scene where she's pulled over for using her phone while driving. And the thing that was kind of crazy is that I happened to watch the first two episodes of Holidays, which we have the recap of me and Anne. And in that, they also have a character gets pulled over for driving and talking on the cell phone. I'm like, what is this like a theme? And it was just I had just watched it. It was like boom, boom. It was kind of funny. And I was kind of shocked that she ends up in jail.
That
Usually you
was
don't see
funny.
that in Hallmark movies.
When the sheriff was like three strikes, I was like, this is how we are classifying three strikes.
Right.
The no
Because she didn't
license,
have
the on the phone,
because her license and registration had her
her
name on
real
it.
name.
It wasn't
Yeah.
Mary. And so she doesn't want to show him that. The other strike was her using her phone driving. And then the third strike was uh the I guess what was the third strike?
That she almost hit her.
Oh
that she
yeah,
almost
right,
hit
right. Oh yeah, that's
the
right for sure.
sheriff.
Yeah.
And that was
And
also the quickest turnaround to like you're sentenced to
right,
community
you're in
service
jail.
and you're doing it right now. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God.
And that's the same as in holidays. It's the same thing.
That's so
Yeah, so
funny.
he's gonna have a court thing, but they're like, oh, I'm moving to Australia. I can't be here, so can I do community service? They're like, yes, tomorrow. Show up. It's ridiculous, but whatever.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. I'm like
Only
all of
in
these,
Hallmark land.
like,
Only in Hallmark land.
like what is it now that like we need some safe driving in Hallmark. This is
Hmm.
we've got all these unsafe
Put your phones
drivers.
down.
Put the
Hands
phone
free.
down.
Yes.
Yes. And so because it used to be this big thing that I know from several writers, one in particular that told me that you could not have a character in a Hallmark movie doing anything that was illegal.
Oh,
That
interesting.
yeah, that was not allowed. And so you couldn't have them like stealing something, or even if it was for an overall good or anything
Hmm.
like that. And so the I don't think a couple of years ago you would have seen a Hallmark heroine end up in jail.
No, never.
No. So I was like, whoa, that
No.
was funny. And so we get some scenes with this guy, Jack's son, who he says he felt like the diner was more important to him than him. And again, that reunification was very, very sweet. It was very nice.
No, I'm glad they pulled it off. I was nervous because they had the moment where they go, and they ask the son, like, would you be willing to reunite with your dad?
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's like cut to commercial. We don't know his answer. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, please go to the diner. And then, of course, he shows up and they
Because they're
share a really
gonna
lovely hug. And they looked like
yeah,
father and son.
they did. Yeah. And so they're gonna have her birthday party on Christmas Eve because that's when she was born. It's her birthday. And Jack calls her mom. And I like the fact that her mom was not an ice queen of business. She wasn't some like horrible person that you often see in these kinds of movies. That just because
It's
she was
true.
a like successful woman usually means ice queen.
Well, and everything we see of her is her like giving back.
Yeah,
Like she's doing all of these kind of charitable things. She's like the town's secret Santa. And then even when you see her at work, she's taking pictures with like
yeah,
fans probably,
yeah,
and greeting them. So, yeah, she's definitely like a warmer business figure than most.
yeah. So then we find out that Kyle's dad was actually at the birth.
He was
But
the
he was
lawyer.
he yeah, and he was the one taking the photo. So that's why he's
Yep.
not in the photo. So
Yep.
that's kind of fun. They realize this. And then she reveals who she is. And everybody's just kind of like, yeah, we already knew this. No
They're
big
like, we
deal.
thought you looked familiar.
Yeah. And she says to her mom, maybe I can use the trust fund to do this kind of thing full time.
So sweet.
Yeah. Very sweet. We can all be envious of anybody who has that career option.
I
Like,
know.
way to
To just
go.
spend millions of dollars on charitable efforts. I love it.
I'd sign up. Let's do it.
Yes. Well, and I mean, and that's the other thing that I really liked about her is that a lot of times when there's a heiress, the heiress is like inept, like can't do
Yeah.
anything right. Is yes, they're trying to find themselves and they're spoiled and all of that, but also a lot of times they present them as like dumb and just unable to like
Yeah.
hack it. But Evie
Because
was really
that's the thing with like Clueless is that
yeah.
Cher is not stupid.
No, and that's the thing. It's like Evie was effective. Like she was managing to get
Mhm.
all of these wishes fulfilled and was also personable and really like trying to get to know these people too. So she wasn't like,
Judgy.
the ditzy
Yeah.
like, oh, how many more days do I have to be in this little town? It was nice to see she was smart and capable.
Yeah,
and
she's like a
it
little
was great.
sheltered, but not like not in any kind of mean-spirited way at all. Very
Right. She was
sweet.
also just kind of like lost, just
Hmm.
kind of not sure what she wanted to do, which I think a lot of people can relate to,
Hmm.
regardless of their, financial
Yeah.
status.
I do think that she was probably a little bit old for this role. I mean, I think it makes more sense to have somebody who's like 20 playing this part,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Like in reality, her mom would have probably done this much sooner. So it doesn't make sense to have a 40, I think she's 40 something. Doesn't make sense to have her playing this role, but that's a huge Hallmark problem. And but it was a sweet character, endearing character.
Well, I think that for me, the age thing that was the most jarring was that all of these people, it's almost 40 years after this happened, it's 35 years after this happened. All these people are looking great. Like all
Yeah.
these people are like spry, still working, still the
Yeah.
fire chief,
I
still
mean,
the
that's
town
why I think that
doctor.
it
And
would have
I
made
was
more
like,
sense for her
really?
character to be 20 and to be played by a 20-year-old actress
Yeah.
than seeing these people that are like, 40, whatever. Like then that would have been more believable,
Yeah. A
you
hundred
know.
percent.
So, yeah, it is a thing. I mean, it's a problem. I mean, we know there's this whole lawsuit and everything like that about Hallmark. Uh, but the
Yes.
problem is, and I've said it many times before, the problem isn't with the actors who are very capable and talented. The problem is with the scripts, not with the actors. This script is written. I mean, just like you couldn't have a 20-year-old playing a kindergartner. Like
Mm-hmm.
certain ages should play certain characters. That's not being ageist. That's the casting. And so like it's the same thing here. Like this should have been played by a 20-year-old. It's written as if it's a 20-year-old. It makes more sense. And it's fine. It's not a deal breaker, but I'm just saying that the problem is not with the actors. They're perfectly fine. The problem is with the scripts not matching the actors. That's the problem.
I mean, listen, in my mind, this is a diversity issue. And I mean, I could go on a rant about this. And
Yeah.
it is just not like just the diversity of casting or, directors, whatever. It's of stories. Like,
Yeah.
not every story has to be written for the 33-year-old single woman looking for love moving back to her hometown. Like
Yeah.
diversity also means a diversity of stories, right? So if someone's
Mhm.
35, let's write an appropriate story for a 35-year-old.
Yeah.
If someone is 45, let's
Yeah.
write that story.
Exactly.
65. I had more of an issue with like the age of the other people around her
Yeah, I can
that
see
made
that.
it. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like was this doctor 20 when she was,
Right.
when
Yeah, she's like
when
Doogie
she started
Howser or
her
something.
practice?
Yeah. Is she Doogie Howser?
Yeah, because the older
Doctor.
version of her did not look,
Right.
it just didn't
No,
look,
it's true.
she still looked really young.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I
it's
was,
true. Yeah. It's
but
absolutely true. But it was so fun. One thing I did like is that they play the Christmas bingo. And that was very nostalgic for me because my grandma would not just Christmas bingo, but she would make like holiday themed bingo cards for all different whenever we had like a family event. So there'd be like orange ones for Halloween, and we have like and different, and she would get these like rolls of quarters, and she would give or, quarters to the winners and stuff, and it was like super cool and exciting and fun. And like I said, we're big game people for games. But I do have a lot. That was very nostalgic to me, them playing Christmas bingo.
yeah.
I thought that was cute.
Yeah, I thought that was cute too.
You know, that brought back some memories.
Yeah, I thought it was cute too.
So anyway, it was a very sweet movie. It had like really community spirit feels, and I think that's what you want in a Hallmark movie. Is you want that cozy feeling, and that's what this had.
Yes, 100%. It gave me all the feels.
Yeah.
It was, total Christmas spirit. the season of giving, it had all of it was, and it was also perfect for like a Hallmark mysteries holiday movie,
Yeah.
a little less rom-com, a little more, heartwarming, um, family-centered movie. It was very sweet, and I was really surprised by this, like really pleasantly
Yeah.
surprised and impressed. And it
too.
was also well done.
Yeah, it was. It really did. It looked nice. And just see this Brooke Durham who wrote it. I wonder what else she's written. Oh my gosh, she's written tons of good stuff. She did The Royal Nanny, which I think is really fun. She did Date with Love. I love that one. Yeah. So she's great. Very
Thumbs
cool.
up.
Yeah. So there we go. This one I would probably give like I'd probably give it like a 3.75 or a 4, something like that
Yeah,
in
I
there.
think I'd go 4. I really liked it.
So let us know what you think of these two. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. And Dory, where can people find you? Tell everybody about your podcast, what you do over there and everything.
You can find me on All the Feels podcast, wherever you download podcasts. We have a holiday movie bracket every year where we pit Hallmark movies against each other. And at the end of the season, one movie reigns supreme. So we are well into the bracket. So come on over and listen. And you can also find us on Twitter at All the Feels Pod. You can download the bracket there and talk to us about movies and all of that good stuff.
Very good. We'll have all that information in the description. You definitely want to check it out. And congratulations. This is your 9th season, right?
Yes, this is our 9th season, which
Yeah.
is crazy, crazy, crazy.
Yeah.
And it's every year, like we started it in 2016, like days after the election, and then here we are again. It was just so funny because I was like, the timing of it, it's just always election season, always the craziness leading up to the podcast. So we were like, this feels like deja vu.
Yeah, that
Here we are.
Really,
Crazy.
in more ways than one.
I
That's
know.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, I can't believe it's our 8th season. Where's the time go?
Time flies.
Time flies. Time flies. Well, again, let us know what you think of all things we talked about. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast, Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you are listening to either of our podcasts on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really, really helps people to find us. It makes us much more searchable if we got those reviews. So please, 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 we really, really appreciate it. And then if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Most of our listeners on YouTube, most of our viewers are not subscribers. So if you're in that camp, please subscribe. It really helps the algorithm a lot. And we have our patron group, which is a lot of fun. We have our patron watch-alongs and our other activities that are available for any level of Patreon support. So, and we appreciate that so much. And I really, really try hard to make it worth your while. And then we have the merch store where we have new holiday movie themed designs. We've got Christmas Story, we've got Home Alone, we've got Die Hard, we've got it all. So check that out. And thanks so much. And we'll talk to y'all later. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.